What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Innovation, not 2020, sorry, podcast news award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online conversation on a monthly basis in the world for fathers and men that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and is also sponsored by Dad Central Canada's national fatherhood organization. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And it's coming up to the end of the year. We're broadcasting live on December 28th. And you know what? We can't go without having a year-ender by my two most consistent contributors on the Dr. Vibe Show. They are here. They are now. It's Aisha K. Staggers and Jill D. Jones. What is up?
Hello.
Hi.
You know what? And everybody, if you're only listening by audio, you're robbing yourself, because we just had an incredible video compilation done by Jill Jones. I am bowing because it was so good. I'm almost thinking we have to play it at the end. Don't know if we are now, but Jill, thank you so much. That video was outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks. There were so many things to share. I mean, I would like to, I would have liked to have featured more of the frontline workers, the California fires. It was just staggering, Staggers, how much stuff there was in each month, each year, each section, each hour. I mean, it was unbelievable. I can't even begin.
Yes, but so Black Beauty, you just jumped on. Please watch the replay. The intro was on fire. And
yeah, it's so long. I've got to find better music next that doesn't have to repeat 3 times. That's how crazy
it was. So good.
This
so
is.
And just for anyone who wants to know, I'm Jill's agent for her video editing duties. All right, I'm already claiming that. But ladies, how has it been since we last chatted? Well, I guess there's still some things we need to chat about before we get to the year. Now, one of them is you both said there would not be a stimulus package.
Didn't I? I did. I'm shocked. But
I did not see this coming. I really didn't.
No, but technically there isn't. He let it all wrap up. It's going to take a lot longer to get all that stuff reinstated. And, let's hope that some of these landlords are patient.
And people are missing a week of pay because it was supposed to be 11 weeks, not 10.
Exactly. Yes. It was supposed to be 11 weeks and not 10. So they lose a week.
Have either of you actually looked at the bill itself? Because there's some things in it I'm going,
yeah, there's still all of that foreign aid that is really at this time, given what we're going through now with the crisis, particularly Americans aren't okay. And we put all that junk in there with foreign aid.
Yeah, the foreign aid is
foreign aid would be good if we were doing well as a country.
Yeah.
Which our people are not doing good. That should be money distributing to our own people. I don't see how the Republican Party especially, and the Democratic Party, for going along with that to compromise just to get us $600 checks. People are okay with letting that fly because they barely want to chip off $600 a person for the checks for American people, but like this $500 million to Israel, and then they've got this astronomical amount of money going to help other countries with their PPE, and we can't even supply our own PPE. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's crazy.
Now, so I have a point here. Now, Aisha, you just said, why are we giving money to other countries? Now, 45 during his presidency said America first.
But he never did that. That's the whole thing, is that he said that during his campaigning, but he was never an American first president. He was a white America first president.
Okay.
And when you get down to that, he didn't even stick up for white America. He
No.
was all about Trump, Donald Trump first. That's what he meant as America. He saw America
Sure.
as himself and
Okay.
his little circle, his family. That first.
Okay. All right. We have a comment on here. Black Ambassador saying, I'm a landlord and gave my
Aw.
renters discounts for 6 months. I had reserves, but it had been hard for us, and many people are mom and pop landlords. So true.
Absolutely.
But we
Exactly.
respect you for doing that.
Yeah.
We respect you for doing that, because
It's
I'm
so
sure
hard.
not everyone's going to be that. Not every landlord's going to be like that.
Well,
No,
every
and the
landlord can afford
banks
that.
haven't been, and the banks haven't been, you know, they only, the banks were only covering like those, let's say you had let's say your mortgage was with different kind of lender, or it was being serviced by somebody else. I mean, there were a lot of little caveats to this. And I don't think any of the governors took care of that for any homeowner. I mean, like some of them would waive things for a whole year, but even they're at the end of their thing now too.
Mm, mm. But I still think there's a lot of holes though in this bill, because no money's going to the states.
No,
No,
it's
there's
not.
still no state funding.
No, there isn't. And, you know, we're dealing here in California where 1 in every 1,000 people are being, you know, are dying. I mean, it's not
Like,
even being
how
hospitalized.
how bad is it in California? Because I hear, Jill, you're at ground level in California. How sad is it there right now?
It's really bad. There was an article in the Times today about from like 30 different epidemiologists speaking like, wow, you know, California was so great. They were doing so well at the very beginning. And then it speaks about where it derailed and where the fatigue came into it. We had a lot of like horrible people like in Orange County and other places up north. The white sector of people really were the agitators. They created all of this, you know, QAnonymous stuff and, you know, demented talk. And they really, they put a kibosh in everything. Not more than that, they'd done something pretty catastrophic out here. But yeah, it was the white people, and they made sure to just disrupt as much as they could, and they did. You know, they really did. They wanted to keep their stores open. It's just, it's really dreadful. It's grim. So it is ground zero. I mean, these people are so living, you know, people in California are also living hand to mouth here. You got to remember, it's a show city. You can't show your hand. And so people are all like one step away from just living in their cars. Anyway, so it's all show. It's never real what people say they own, what they don't own. You know, people are renting out their Airbnb places, especially because they need to pay their mortgages or pay their rent or pay whatever. That's what that was all about. And we saw some really desperate, hungry, thirsty people out here. And it's bad because there are no ICUs. And I think Gavin Newsom said today that in 4 weeks, if we don't meet a threshold that we're supposed to be at, there's going to just be another clampdown. But it doesn't matter because the white people have completely rebelled here. Their white privilege has really gotten to the point where they don't respond to anything, to any authority. They will not, and they refuse to do so. And, you know, unfortunately, that's where we are with a country full of white entitled people. And they really have turned out to be the ugliest of the lot because they don't care about anybody else. And the minute that they said it was affecting brown and black people, they really didn't care. But it's not just doing that anymore. It's actually affecting quite a lot of people. And but for some other reason, they're such heathens. It doesn't matter if grandma dies or Poppy dies. They don't seem to have any blood in their veins. Malcolm X tried to tell us.
Aisha?
Well, you know, that was one of the things that earlier this year I knew this was going to be bad. When they first said that when it was breaking news that this was dramatically affecting and disproportionately affecting Black and brown people in terms of the rates of I the day I saw them, I was just like, it's going to be bad because white people are going to think that they can't die. I said, this is going to be bad because they're going to be like, well, why should we wear masks? Because really, that's what people want to say. They don't want to say, why should we have to be careful? Why should we have to give our Thanksgiving, our Christmases, and this and that? Because those people are more likely to die. It's not us. It's
That's what
them.
they've done. Exactly.
They're just afraid to say it because they don't want to sound racist. They want the freedom to behave in racist ways. They just don't want the consequences that come from being bigots.
True.
So, Aisha, now, I don't know if it was you that said it on one of our previous conversations, or someone else said this is one of the few times that many white Americans were being told what to do.
Yes, I did. I said
Yes.
they were being told what to do and they did not like it. And
Yeah.
that's when the whole thing came where it's like, I said white people had too much freedom.
Yes, you said that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I said they had too much freedom because they did not like being told what to do. And the idea of being told not to do something was what stuck in their craw more than anything. Think of this as an example. There's no need for white people to still be able to say the N-word as freely. But that's the first thing that they complain about. It's like, how come you can say it and I can't? It's not that they want to say it. And a good friend of mine told me this, who's a white girl. She said, it's not that white people want to say it. We're not used to being told no.
Wow.
But
And
you
that's
know,
what this is.
when they used to be able to get their mouths knocked off their faces, they didn't say it. But you know what's so interesting, and that's coming back, by the way. That's making a big comeback.
Yeah, it is.
What this should really be a wake-up call to is that, you know, if we think we're going to deal with climate change, we're doomed, because I've learned a lot about white people in this whole thing, that they're not team players. That's why they can't have a basketball team. They can't, not only can they not play, they can't coordinate shit together, and they don't work well together. And it's like they're good with individual sports like skiing and driving NASCAR or something, where they're not in a team. But it's pretty apparent, all joking aside, it's pretty apparent that that's a hoax too. But the reality is that they're not there for you. They're not there as a collective group of people, though, for the most part out here. I mean, and I have a lot of disdain in my voice for it, because I think the ones here in California are pretty reprehensible, and it's unforgivable what they've done.
So we can go further down this hole, but I want to start looking over the year. But one thing I will add to what you're saying, Joe, you're saying that white people like doing things
Are
on their own.
selfish. Selfish.
Well, the thing is, if you look on the basis of Eurocentric culture is built on the individual, whereas
That's right.
Afrocentric culture is built on the collective, on the community. So it shouldn't be, if you look historically, it isn't that big of a surprise.
No.
Right.
And no, really, and they shouldn't be in our, you know, I think somewhere we're going to have to delineate some kind of future moving forward without them, because they can't be counted on.
We'll
Not
save
this
that to
much.
the end. We'll save that to the end. Aisha, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, one final thing is that because of this, we in America should not expect that this vaccine is going to go anywhere in the next 5 years. We're stuck in this. We are stuck in this. And I think that if someone came out with the raw numbers relating to how many white people are getting and dying of COVID versus how many Black and brown people are, that might get their attention, because statistically there are more white people in raw numbers.
Yes.
And so once they see that there are more of them getting it and dying from it, disproportionately, we're talking about the rate of death compared to the number of people that there are in a certain group.
I don't
not
think
Mhm.
the
they'll
raw
care.
numbers.
I don't think they'll care. Have you ever not watched that show, The Vikings? They don't care. It's like, really, this has been a really, like I said, eye opener for me, because it really, it's a cultural thing that I don't know who raised them, what they talk about. I mean, it's baffling to me. It's there's no other way around it. Is it genetic to be so hateful
Well,
and selfish? I mean,
well, you always like I always say that you learn the most. One of the times you learn the most about people is in extremes.
this is an extreme that, you
Yeah.
know, it's pretty horrendous, and they should not pat themselves on the back.
Okay.
And
Well,
and
go ahead.
this
Go
is
ahead,
this
Shisha.
is and this is very exclusive to American white people.
It is
because
American white.
because
Thank
looking
you.
across the rest of the world, they, you know, where you have other areas, you look at Canada, you look at Europe, you look at Australia, they've done what they need to do in terms of taking care of the people. This is
It is
this is here.
exclusive to
This
American
is
white
here.
people. It is. It's here. It's just, I remembered, I've said this before, when I was living in Europe, and you could spot an American white person a mile away. And it's just now really progressed worse and worse. And, you know, the buffoonery and clownish and all of that, it's just really bad.
Okay.
Just
Well,
bad.
let's and as we said, we had our before we went live chat. I had a feeling we may have to do two parts of this. Now I'm definite that we're doing two parts of this. After what Jill did with that video, and after this, we haven't even started. We haven't even started the year yet. We were
I
still,
know.
you know. So let's get it. So, ladies, whatever subjects you want to chat about, let's just put them out there. The audience, if you're watching live, please put in your comments. The ladies are here because you know they ain't going back down from anything. So throw in whatever you want. So is there anything you want to start with, or do you want me to put something out there? How are we going to do it? How are we going to do the potpourri?
You
I
put
mean,
something there,
go on.
or
Okay.
no?
Well,
I
Kobe.
think Jill had given a great list of topics for us
Yeah.
to discuss, and I think that you put them out there, and we'll go for it.
And I forgot Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben.
Oh,
That was
love.
a big discussion too, remember? I mean, we went through it all this year.
We did, we did.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to remember this video, and what I'm gonna do is after this is finished, I'm gonna watch the video again and say, okay, what didn't we touch for part two? So one of the first things I saw in the video, because I just got it a few minutes before we went live, is Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the impact. Your
Who
That
thoughts?
was
knew?
that was the start of the year being a real, it's like, just, that was the same day of the Grammy Awards. And so it was like, turn on the TV and you didn't know what you were expecting to see. It's like that was the first thing that I saw. I turned on the TV that day. And I was like, I didn't believe it. I was like, this can't be right. And I was like, Kobe, who's Kobe Bryant? I knew who Kobe Bryant was. Okay. I
Yeah.
already know. I'm just like, this must be some other Kobe Bryant. They can't be talking about the Kobe Bryant. They've got to be talking about somebody else, because this can't
Yeah.
be happening. And then it was even, I think it was even more tragic to hear that his daughter also died with him in the plane. She's so young. And then there were other children in that
Yeah.
crash,
I think that
other
was
families.
why it was such, it now looking back and looking at everything we've come through. And you mentioned this, like we had families die in that thing and that horrific crash. And it it's like you would go, oh my gosh. And it's like, how many people would have known that experience other than somebody in like wartime or something like that? But now at the end of the year, there's so many families that can relate to the loss of losing your children and your husband and your wife and everything, short of being in a helicopter accident or a plane crash or a car accident,
Yeah.
because of what COVID did. So it's almost like that prepared us for this heavy, weight of like, oh my gosh, what must that be like? And the people that have to carry on, and the
Yeah.
children that his wife Vanessa has to go through. So it's almost like that was the opening of the heavens for everybody else who was
Yeah.
due to come.
And Vanessa's still going through stuff with her mother. her.
Yes.
And it's like the trauma for her never ends this year.
No.
Well, for me, I guess a number of impacts. I think one, it just it was just one of many stories that even though they were sad, there was somehow controversy tied to it. And the controversy, especially with this one, was the Gayle King interview of, I can't remember the lady's name, who was a friend of Kobe Bryant's, the hub of
the WNBA player.
WNBA player. And that's the
Leslie Jones? No, not Leslie Jones. Yeah, the basketball.
Can't remember. But
yeah, I forgot about that.
It just seemed that there were so many things this year that were not good events, but there was controversy put on them.
Yeah, the controversy with that particular event was that Gayle King was wrong for the line of questioning. As a journalist, I'm not going to go to someone's friend, someone who's obviously moving. Kobe Bryant was her best friend. I'm not going to go to somebody's best friend and then ask them if we should forget about the legacy of this person's just said, and ask about the legacy of this past scandal, given the context that that's just fodder and meat for clicks and views. And that scandal ended up coming out differently than what people believe it did.
Yeah, she was very hungry for that, very thirsty. And I haven't watched Gayle King since, to be honest. I lost a lot of respect for her.
Well, the basketball player's name was Lisa Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lisa Leslie.
Yeah, I tuned off of that because it was kind of like, wow, she really undercut. Gayle didn't have much grace about herself for that. And it was very tabloid-esque. And I expected more from her.
And people were mad at Snoop for what Snoop called Gayle.
Yeah.
And I loved what he called her because he was absolutely 100% right. Then he apologized and it came out later that it was 150 because she did something else later. Another thing.
Remember what she ended up doing was she tried to throw CBS under the bus and said that it was CBS that took the video and aired it without her permission.
Yes.
And then the president of CBS said, "Oh no, we did not. Gayle knew everything that we were putting into that video package. She authorized it."
I think Gayle's head got a little big after the
coverage.
No, the other guy that she was.
R. Kelly.
Such a great R. Kelly. So I think her head got a little big, like, oh my gosh,
Like I'm like Oprah. I'm like Oprah now.
Yeah. Exactly. So we got to see her Achilles heel, and we got to see why she is an Oprah.
Right.
Well, one other thing I want to get both your ladies' thoughts on it in this story is the impact it had on so many young black men. Like it almost seemed like, for lack of a better term, the Messiah had passed away.
True.
Yeah. Kobe, you got to remember, a lot of people of a certain age watched Kobe come to basketball and, as a teenager. They watched him come in straight from high school. He was around their age and watched him grow up with them.
True.
And so that connection right there was it's like when Michael Jackson dies, Prince dies, Whitney Houston dies, Kobe Bryant dies, all of these icons die. You feel part of your childhood, part of your youth dying. And there's that feeling for Black men. Kobe Bryant was one of those symbols of their youth passing away and dying because, so many people, like I said, grew up with him at the same time. They remember when he went with Brandy, when Brandy went with him to his prom. They remember that.
Yeah.
Not more to be said. I think, and it seems so long ago, but it wasn't
It
that
does.
long ago.
It wasn't even a year.
It
So
just
much,
seems,
so much has happened in this year.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
For
Like I'm
sure.
going, has there ever been, I was going to ask at the end, but has there ever been a news year like this one?
No. No, from what I can
No.
see, no. We had just the day after Kobe, we were dealing with the impeachment stuff as well, and then
Yeah.
we had the travel ban to China, and in the middle of all that, I think Kansas City beat the 49ers, and then the State of the Union came along. It was like a lot going on.
So,
I mean,
folks,
think
as you
about
can
that.
as you can tell, Jill is research on point tonight. Like
Yes.
she just dropped about 4 stories that we could spend an hour on in like 30 seconds.
When you think about that,
Crazy.
if you go for the death of Kobe Bryant, right to impeachment, that's like,
Yeah.
So let's talk about the impeachment.
Mm-hmm. That was
why
something.
why are you laughing?
Because at the beginning of the year, I think we had so much hope, and they filed their articles of impeachment at the beginning, like the middle of January, and we're waiting and waiting. And then, I mean, to see how every law that we have or we believed in this country get totally dismantled has been shocking. It's been, to say it threw you off your game. I mean, honestly, he really is like Teflon, Donald
yeah,
Trump.
John Gotti.
And
Teflon Don.
he has surpassed John Gotti on so many levels as the Teflon Don. The interesting thing is that to see how by this year, all of his chess pieces were in play, and then he got them all together. What was so interesting is I recommend everybody do a timeline. Like I told you, Dr. Vibe, when you do it, and you do like a parallel thing of just the Donald Trump story, and then you just do everybody else's life. Sometimes Trump would ride the crest of just disasters and things people would forget about certain things and move on. But what was so crazy is that by the time the State of the Union came, Nancy makes a big show and rips up the paper, and you're thinking, yeah, it's going to get really good. And you start to see where you get excited and then you're let down. You get excited and then you're let down. I feel like after this, I'm going to need to be on a tranquilizer, because it's like I feel like Americans have post-traumatic stress disorder. I really, really do, because this was not normal. This was not a normal news cycle.
What's
Well,
the
remember,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Aisha.
she didn't up the paper because she was like after him, like now it's business, because she got snubbed for a handshake.
Exactly.
You have to really put things in that perspective. It's like the impeachment, we really had high hopes, but we got to think the trial was phenomenal to watch. The
Exactly.
impeachment trial was phenomenal. It's phenomenal television, but the problem was that he had about what was it 50 plus co-conspirators
Yeah.
in the Senate who refused to do the job of removing him.
True.
And that was the
And he
part.
still has them.
And he still has them.
Mm-hmm.
So
has them.
was the impeachment a waste?
No.
Why not?
No.
Because he cannot have a legacy that doesn't say that he was a impeached one-term president.
If he doesn't leave, then he'll just get rid of it. And it won't exist, only in folklore and fairy tales. I'm still very nervous about what's coming up in the beginning of the year.
Well,
I'm not
okay,
even 100% sure.
We're gonna save that till the end, because that's part of the title. What's up next in 2021? But I was offline with a gentleman today, and he said Civil War. But I said I said no surprise. But so the impeachment still was worth it, even though for both of you it didn't generate the end result you wanted.
No, it didn't. And I think that I think it was disappointing, and it's really bad for people to see their team lose every single time. That was bad. I mean, because after a while, it just turned into they need to do something, and the Democrats still don't get it. They still don't know how to negotiate. Judging basically our stimulus. They still don't get it. They still don't get it, and they don't know how to fight. They don't know how to legitimately fight. He's dirty. And I get that Joe and everybody's going to be peacemaker and all of that. That's fine. But at least somebody in the Congress dust it up. Go get stuff on people. I don't care. Leak stuff. Talk about them. Just do it. I mean, it's like they're all looking for their careers. I need somebody to be a hero. I need somebody to go, listen, this, you know what he does on the side, and you know what he does? I just need that. Give me, if it's going to be a telenovela, give me the novella. Give it to me.
Yeah.
And walk out. I mean, because this is, do something disruptive. It's two in order. And I really do think Nancy needs to go. I think we need fresh blood, because if Mitch does stay in, Nancy can't stay. Those two cannot keep butting heads. We got to have somebody else. I'm sorry. It just cannot be her for us. It can't. Just can't be. She's the wrong chick, because we went 4 freaking years with her dilly-dallying. And yeah, she got a little bit here and there, a little bit there, but who's to say somebody else wouldn't have come in and kiboshed that quickly with some quickness?
I think there's two things that we got out of impeachment, which one thing since the last election. The point that Jill made about Democrats needing to fight, I think now that the Republican Party, as we once knew it, has just all but dissolved, and a lot of those people that were the establishment ones that really knew how to fight are leaving and joining the Democratic Party, that maybe some people will learn, that maybe they'll teach the existing Democrats how you really fight, because that's what they were good at doing. But the second thing about the impeachment that I think we did get out of, that we don't know yet, that doesn't that won't come through yet, is all of the information that they got in discovery that's going to be useful in state prosecutions. So, like, there's stuff that they uncovered that they might have not presented during impeachment, I think that Tish James got a hold of, and then she'll use to go after SDNY will use to go after Trump and other places.
I hope so, but I feel like, all I got out of this was a load of information that worried me to death. And it still played out in Trump's favor. And so when I look back on my life of 2020, I'm a little bit salty about that, because I don't see any major gains other than the actual citizens of this country coming together and voting him out. But when I look at Congress, when I look at the Democrats as a whole, they're very disappointing. They lost seats in the House, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly cannot give them stars and stripes. They actually were an abject failure. But when I look at, it's like they came up in like prep school clothes for, a dust up, and they got their asses handed to them time and time again. And, it's like, then we have one cool guy, Eric Swalwell, and this dumb guy can't even stop hanging out with some Chinese chick. It's just like the dumbest that they do to themselves. And it's frustrating. And, we do need progressives in there. We do need a breath of fresh air, but you can't keep fighting like this. And it still goes its own course. I mean, Nancy Pelosi didn't even put AOC on one of the committees recently. And it's like, I just want to go and snatch her wig off and say, who do you think we have been fighting for? It's not you, Nancy. It's ourselves. And you're not in that equation. You are an 80-something-year-old woman. And personally, all of you old folks need to go and hightail it out of here. That's just, we tolerate you all because you've been here so long, and you're like shackles on our feet. You're like somebody threw us in the ocean and we've got cement blocks on. That's what these old people are like. And it's really frustrating to move a country forward with this old dead weight. They're like freaking barnacles on some, the side of a boat. It's unreal. But got to move along because the world has moved. And yes, they know more strategy. Yeah, because they're still operating like they're in the freaking 1920s.
But the question is this: did we ever expect there to be a resolution of impeachment? We knew going in that the Senate was always going to have to make the decision about removal. We knew that the House was always going to impeach him. We knew the Senate was not going to remove him because it was Republican controlled. So we got exactly what we knew we were going to get going into it. There was no surprise.
True, but the fact all they have to show for is that they lost seats in the House. Something is wrong. She took her eye off of something because it shouldn't have been that way.
But I'm not talking specifically about Nancy. I'm just saying
it's not just Nancy, it's all of them.
I'm saying the purpose of impeachment is
then we had the other stupid girl who decided to resign because she had some nude pictures and she was in a throuple. Yeah. Why did she quit? Why?
I think there was more there.
It can't be any more than what Trump had. Just all she had to do was say
the reason I say is when Matt Gaetz becomes your best friend in the House, then there's something there that you don't want people to know. Matt Gaetz becomes your biggest defender. But going back to December of 2019, remember when it came to the topic of impeachment, they had to vote on whether or not they were going to go through even with doing it. And the thing that they were weighing at that time when we had this conversation was should they or should they not go through with it, even knowing that they weren't going to get removal. And
I remember that. It's still just, it isn't really the way I panned out. And I think the media too get you all hyped up. Lindsey Graham and all of his other crap, it was a lot this year. It was a lot.
Well, let's take a reflection on some of the. Go ahead.
The Senate did lose seats as a result of this impeachment, though. You got to remember that the Senate lost seats this go around. That's why they're going to be tied if Ossoff and Warnock win.
Right. Not enough, as far as I'm concerned.
Not enough, but they lost.
What about some more unfortunate Black deaths on behalf of non-Blacks? Like Jill, one of the clips she played there was from 48 Hours. They did an incredible expose on the death of Ahmaud Arbery. And folks, you need to watch that. You can probably watch it online at the 48 Hours website. Really some sad and ridiculous forms of justice in that trial. But America, when I think of America these days, the lack of social justice has just become deeper. And this year just amplified that more, whether it was COVID, whether it was the treatment of Blacks, the shooting of Blacks who are unarmed, etc. I'd like your lady's opinion, reflection over the year about the lack of social justice, specifically the lack of justice toward Black Americans in 2020.
I think it's bad. It's the same old thing. It hasn't changed, and it just gets worse. And that's why we want to defund them. Remember, and everybody flips out about defunding the police, but you're talking about busting up, a group of white supremacists who made it their mission in the 60s to filter out and occupy spaces in government and in the society so that they could control things. And they did. I mean, one horrible thing is Trump put in 290 judges or 238, and that is not going to change. Those rulings are so crippling that I honestly, don't even know what to say. Like, how much can we defund and how much can we really do when they've really altered the state of our existence? You know?
Mhm.
Yeah, just saying here, the Black Beauty saying, I hear you regarding Nancy Pelosi, but how can we Dems ever win unless we get the Senate moving forward? I'd like your opinion on this.
The problem with the Senate is that the Senate districts, the way the Senate districts have been drawn, the way that we get the Senate is that we have got to turn state houses and get to how we redraw districting lines.
Yeah, it's from all the gerrymandering. I mean,
All
and
the
that is
gerrymandering.
but these are things that they've let slip. I mean, you know, I think that Tom Perez was horrible in the DNC, number one. I'm glad, I don't know where they're going to send him to, but I think that Jamie Harrison's going to take over. I hope so. And hopefully he knows what to do. But the reality is, yeah, the gerrymandering, see, these are people who played a long game. You know, it's almost like I feel like Democrats just live day to day or year to year. But the Republican Party, since, I don't know, since Obama in 2008 or when Mitch McConnell was dealing with him, they've always had a long game and they've been working on it for that long. So they're already 12 years ahead of us on what they're planning to do. They've just been like that. And that's why they won the election with Trump as well. They're primed it all up. That's why, you know, Mitch's contacts with Russia and everybody's contacts and those senators who went to Russia. It's just, what's appalling is that we have people in this country who've accepted this behavior. And that's the hardest part because you're looking at, I don't even know what to say where people don't think something is a big deal.
Yeah.
You're talking about policy of treason and treason and people are like, it wasn't really treason. Because I don't know if media has screwed it up. Movies, all these are Oliver Stone and his crap movies and all of that. You know, I've always said it. I really think there's some accountability that Hollywood, for the reasons that most people aren't really, has played a very huge role in the thinking of American people. It just has. They're too enamored with TV. And I think people should have things like television licenses like they do in England and make people pay a fee to have it all year, like $500. And because you know what, in a couple of, I mean, it's too far now because there's so many channels, but it really does keep your population intelligent a little bit longer. We had it roaring, whatever. And, you know, everybody can mention a freaking Rice Krispies commercial, but they don't even know who the president was in 1980. You know, it's bizarre. It's just doom and gloom. I heard a Republican saying today, we want to get the party back to the Reagan era. I mean, really?
Well, you know what though? but you know what?
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, oh my gosh.
Couldn't believe it. I just was like, wow. I mean, it's like these are people, but see, they reference things back. When you reference things in the future, that's a hopeful nation. But a nation that clings to its past, a dead past, it's like going to an old smelly grandma's house and her house is just stinky and there's doilies everywhere.
Yep.
America is a doily nation, little doilies living on its laurels from a long, long era ago. We are
Why do
not
grandmas
courageous.
smell like that? Like, why do like the real old ones? Why do some grandmas smell like that?
Because I
Like,
think old skin starts to smell. Old people,
no,
you smell. You're dying.
I think it's what they keep in their houses. It's like they keep a lot of old stuff, furniture and stuff in their houses.
Old
Anyway,
men.
sorry to get
Anyway,
off the.
don't
sorry
wash
to
their
get off
Yeah,
clothes.
let,
I
let,
don't know,
let's
but
I had
cycle
something.
back.
I
Let's
have something
cycle
to
back.
say.
but I do think we don't look to the future, and when we do, Americans are petrified of it. But when I look at the historically, we've never referenced the future. Barack Obama referenced the future, and they hated him for it, and they were afraid of it. But everybody else, and actually Jimmy Carter, And I know people don't think, there's a great documentary on about him. He actually spoke about the future, about what you do to plan ahead. But I've also learned that Americans don't like that. They don't like that. They are a crap shooting group of people. Let me go play the stock market. Maybe I'll make some money to pay my rent this month.
Let's cycle back to Black America and racism this year.
I was going to say that the Ahmaud Arbery case was a strange one because for so many weeks, the press had given so much attention to that one guy who says he, quote unquote, witnessed the shooting, and that he was going to be a witness, and that this and that, and that he was innocent, and that, but he ended up being charged with murder, that he was an accomplice. That was bizarre. And
what was great about that was when everyone was like going, who's shooting the video? Who's filming the video?
Exactly.
He played himself. I mean, it was like his dumbass was like, I'm out, let me post it. And then he came up with this cockamamie story because on 48 Hours, they showed how they interviewed the interview when she interviewed the first man and the second man. And really, his first story did not match anything. It just was too.
It makes sense.
It didn't make sense. He saw them, the guy running. It was just crazy. And these shootings, this time what was different with the Black America, and then we had the protests going on. This was dynamically like a tipping point. George Floyd, obviously, but Ahmaud Arbery was the beginning of it.
The beginning,
right? That real beginning. We had heard a little bit about Breonna Taylor because she had gotten killed in Louisville, but it wasn't gaining any traction. And that sort of was coming down. But then this Ahmaud Arbery, and then seeing the video is really what was like so traumatic. And it was poised to just peel the layers off with the next thing that happened over counterfeit $20 bill. And then from that, it started to reopen cases like Elijah McClain in Chicago and other people who you were like, really? And then Raynard, the other guy who got shot in his car
in Atlanta
at the Wendy's. Yeah. And it started to really bear down. And this time, though, for some reason, the George Floyd one got white people up off their seats. The real activist ones who were like, oh my God, this is crazy.
This is what was so, I think, impactful about Ahmaud Arbery, that I think the point gets missed because we do focus on as the start of it, is that the reason Ahmaud Arbery got people's attention is because typically in all the previous cases, we never really get to see the perpetrator fully committing the crime. And there's never a video by someone who almost without commentary is like giving you have a play-by-play.
He was like freaking Martin Scorsese in the back,
Exactly. Changing angle.
He filmed it all.
He filmed it all from the ride up to. He filmed it all, and so people were. That got people wondering, like, why is he when people are asking who is filming this, because it's like they caught all this and did not like call. They're using their phone to follow and video and not call
and cut him off and all of that. Yeah,
and all of that. And then that got
and remember, attention. But what really got their attention, they were so ready and ripe for it because they went to his house. Remember, we had the Panthers who went, and people were in front of that house. Roddy's house, the one who thought he was going to just like hole up. And yeah, he came clean but that was the beginning. And they should have known from there on, it was, it was going to be all hands off. But see, I think the police, it was just, you know, they were still trying to do their dirty work. And unfortunately, every city in the nation erupted and did it in a like a wave pattern. Like if California was doing it, then okay, you're going to take Arizona's coming. Then it was like this wave of cities. They didn't all do them on the same day and then say, leave it alone. It went like in circles and it never stopped.
And it was such that the thing of it is that George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd happened at a time and was aired at a time when we were on a national shutdown. The country shut down.
True.
So people had no chance, no choice but to do anything other than watch TV.
Right.
That's why people saw this.
And we just done that whole running for Maud, like Ahmaud Arbery. We did a whole running thing for him. I remember Lenny Kravitz put something out about it. There were so many celebrities that also were outraged on this. So it wasn't going away. And then that was in February. So then when June rolled around for George Floyd, we were pretty much headed in that direction. People were in their houses, you're right. And they were like, the hell with this. We're not sitting in here while you all just kill us all.
And when you talk about white people, when we talk about white people seeing this and getting stirred up, you had white mothers who were sitting at home with their children, trying to homeschool their kids all day, or watching their kids working from home, see this. Because it wasn't a whole bunch of white men who were really moved to this. Let's be honest.
I would actually say, and I know it's going to sound terrible, I still think the white community needs celebrities to endorse their things, to get involved. I don't think white women sitting at home with their kids, because they moan the entire time they had to do it this year. I mean, you'd have thought they never even wanted to know their kids.
I want to jump in here again. I want to get back to the Black America thing. What is the state of Black leadership in America at the end of this year?
Well, here's the thing. I think we have to get out of the idea that Black America needs one leader. I agree
with you, Aisha. But is there any sort of leadership?
But that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. We have to get out this idea that Black America needs one leader. We've always had this mindset that we need one leader, a Martin Luther King, to lead us to something. We need an Al Sharpton to lead us to something.
Yeah, we might be out of that.
We have to be out of that and start to look at different people, trust different people on different things. So not everyone's good at people on everything. And I think that's one of the things that's going to like compromise people when it comes to particularly like things like this vaccination. Over the holidays, I did a Zoom call with my family, and my family, my mother's side, we are strictly divided by generation. So you've got the 80s, 70s, 50s, 40s, no 30s, 20s, and the late teens.
Wow.
And how we all see the vaccine is different. It's totally different depending on the generation and where we get our information from. And it was surprising to hear that people in their 20s are just kind of like, I'm not doing it. It's like, okay. And then people in their 80s are like, most definitely, I'm 80 something, of course. I'm in that high risk group. And people in their 40s, me and my sisters are like, absolutely, when it gets to be our turn. And just to know that if you want to reach those different generations, then you're going to have different speakers to reach them all. There's not going to be like a one size fits all leader.
So are you saying what Jill said about the Democratic Party, that Black America needs to do a change up?
Yeah, we do. We do. we have this old guard of leadership. And one of the things that bothers me is, I saw this like back in 2006. I saw what is his oh, Julian Bond. I can see his face. Julian Bond at a conference, and somebody asked him about drawing in and bringing in the next generation of leaders, which would have been my generation at that time. So I was like just 30 something, just 30. And he says they have to pry the baton out of my head, out of my hand, my cold dead hand. That's what he said. That's pry the baton out of my cold dead hand. I'm not passing it. And that's what I think a lot of people in seniority in our community think. And that's one of the things that I think that Jill is so saying when it comes to the people in control of the Democratic Party. They won't pass the baton onto the next generation. They hold on to it until they're ready to leave. And then by the time it's kind of like by the time they decide to pass it, they have passed it on to the youngest of the generations, and it's skipped like 2, 3, 4 generations in between.
And then we're behind the eight ball.
That never got chances at, and that's what you're going to have in this mix up here. I think that we have to start looking at leaders who are of a younger age, but not necessarily, and you won't find them necessarily being the youngest. You're gonna you're gonna look at 50-year-olds and 40-year, 30-year-olds because they haven't had the chance yet.
But we have a really weird thing happening here, like now, like you guys know how I feel about the Black victimization stuff here, that you know there are people who abuse an effort that you're trying to make in society, and there are people who abuse it. But like what really has, it's really hard for us to find people who are believing collectively, because we do have a lot of people in and out with their own viewpoint. They don't trust the government. I told you all about that Clubhouse thing I was listening to, and everybody from the wrong side of the tracks. But then there was another situation where this movie Soul just came out, and there were so many people upset about it because they feel that a Black animated character shouldn't be turned into like a little amorphous little thing because they all go to heaven or whatever. And and I was like, they are tripping, because the whole point of that movie it was a spiritual movie, but I'm a little bit tired of everything being reduced to color. I really am, because I think that we're now at a point where we can't even pick leaders unless every conversation turns into a color thing. Sometimes it's not color at all. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is about, we know what happens to us externally, but we got to stop feeding that. And that's why, because they trying to kill us. All of a sudden their COVID, they say, has created a super gonorrhea because of all the usage of antibiotics. Super gonorrhea is running around. Well, I'm a little bit perplexed that people were having this much sex out here in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah,
think about it. I'm like, really? Like, aren't they supposed to be quarantining? And where is this little manifestation coming from? But we have a lot of really subcultural groups happening. And I don't know, Dr. Vibe, I just think America is going to go through a really big transition. Maybe in like 100 years, it'll be okay, but I don't know.
I want to jump back a minute. The impact of the death of George Floyd, not only with Black America, but white Americans in general. When we look back of it, do you feel will have a lasting impact on American culture?
Yes.
How?
Maybe visually we'll always remember that, but I will also remember the people in California who decided to steal and loot. And I know that's not a big deal to some people, but to me it is, because it's kind of like somebody coming to your concert and, you know, opens up and has a steak dinner in the middle of it while you're singing. You know, these were protests, and I don't like people who take an opportunity to go and do something on the side. I don't like it. I never will. And I get it. People steal, they like to break things. And I'm not saying they were Antifa or anything. They were just some riffraff that just wanted to get over, make some money, and sell the stuff on Facebook. For me, that's what I feel about having barnacles and shackles on your ankles and weights and being thrown in the freaking ocean, and you're fighting every single day to improve something for somebody else's lives. And you see that. And if I lived in a dictatorship and I ran the world, I wouldn't tolerate it. They wouldn't exist.
Anything you want to add, Aisha? Like, what do you, if we look back now amongst the George Floyd incident, where are we stand? Where's America standing, especially when it comes to race relations after such a tumultuous year?
I think this year, as far as race relations, will be the year that will be remembered as the year that, in an era, that Black people said, no, we're not going to sweep this under the rug this time. We're going to face it. We're going to look.
I have one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
This year was the year that the whole world finally knew how valuable Black women were and are.
Yeah.
They're the most intelligent of their skill levels off the hook. Some of the women that have showed up during all of this, phenomenal characters, compelling, creative. We really saw something that is going to create whatever dynamic it's going to create. I don't know, animosity, it could create hope. I don't know, but they were killing it. Black women killed it this year and continue to do so.
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey
I
Abrams
need to get to
got
America,
her due.
because I do feel like the Black American male really has fallen way behind, and they're not up to the level of the women. Sorry. I mean, you can't just play football your whole life and think like, okay, we got somebody.
Well, let's put it this way.
There's many women.
The last time you mentioned that, you know what happened, but we ain't going to go there right now. So, I think
the men can do better. I mean, it's really, I'm not saying all of them, but what we're seeing from the younger one, they got to work really hard, and education is really key. I get it. Trying to achieve your goals is difficult. We get all of that. But there's still some remarkable women that seriously have blown me away. And they encounter oppression every single day on so many levels.
So, Jill, let me ask you both a question. Someone would say that American society makes more room for Black women than Black men. Do you believe that?
No.
It's actually the opposite is true.
I was going to say the opposite.
Because, we still live in a very sexist society. So
patriarch.
Very patriarchal. And so I look at it this way. I've been in boardrooms before, and where political decisions are made and public policies are made, and I will have been only other Black person in the room, youngest person in the room, only Black female in the room, and I can tell you that I will have said something about the Black community and how the impact of a policy on the Black community. And all those people would look at me like I had three heads. The Black man would say exactly what I said, use my exact words.
Yeah.
And they would look at him like, wow, you have such a hold on how this affects your community. That's brilliant. We should really do this. And I'm like, this Negro just stole my words.
Right.
Didn't put any of his own effort into it, just took mine, when I knew beforehand what he was going to say was not nearly as good as what my plans were. And it just, I might as well have just, had a sign
Remember,
across my head that
well,
said,
we get dismissed immediately for being Black angry women. It's like, oh, well, that's dismissed, whether you're working. And let's say you're an attorney. I mean, you're supposed to have your own strategy and be able to do, and a judge will actually, I've seen judges have so many biases against African-American female attorneys. I just have. I've seen them. I've seen judges have biases against obviously Black defendants. It's so interesting to me. Somebody said that Black men and children, boys and girls, are socialized differently, but we still socialize differently because this is just on the level of taking race out of it. Men and women communicate differently anyway, number one. And number two, you put in this whole color thing into it. We end up competing against each other, which is fine, but there's still a huge wage gap when you look at white people versus Black people, what they're making for the same jobs. I mean, there's a lot.
So we have a comment here from Dr. Tachi, who is the host of the livest program online that features media, tech, and pop culture called Mediascope. And it's on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern time on Instagram Live, and then 6 p.m. Eastern time on WJMS Radio, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, Periscope until March 31st. And she says, we are still victims of patriarchal, misogynistic system that some Black men participate in. We are also expected to be the support for Black men, but the favor is not often returned. But do they know how to return the favor? Good question.
But I'll go even further than what she said, that we're often expected. Our support is often required. Their support of us is all too often optional. And so when you have these killings of Black people, and the level of support and outreach given when it's in the demand for justice, when it's a Black man, we don't give the same when it's a Black woman.
I think Breonna Taylor, but I
think Breonna Taylor is like the first time we've seen
that do it. Yeah. Without vilifying her. Sandra Bland, we tried very hard, but did she ask, did we feel, do they know how? I think they do know how. I think people know. I tend to think that a little bit of common sense of just by now, we've talked about it so much, what's expected, reciprocal. I'm not giving a pass on that because it's just like if somebody gives me something, I say thank you. I'm not a heathen.
So I want to bring it back in, and now in my mind, we're at a very interesting point because we still have a lot of conversation topics.
We do.
And because two of them that's thinking in my mind haven't even touched the election yet.
Mm-mm.
Haven't even talked about Black Lives Matters yet.
No.
Those are two subjects all in itself. So I am thinking that maybe we should stop here.
Okay. Cool.
Because it will also give me time to watch a whole video and say, oh, maybe we need a part 3. But because I'm saying, I think because to go into another subject, and I know our audience will. And Black Beauty is saying Dr. Tachi is right on as well with the ladies. Hello. Yeah. And that's another thing. Dr. Tachi, where are you? You should be on this conversation.
You should be.
I'll work on it with her. But I think we're gonna stop you because
to review that.
The election could be a whole one in itself.
Yeah.
And also too starting to reflect on 45's administration.
True.
There's a whole. So, folks, we're gonna stop it here. I'm gonna take a look at the video and pull out the short list, of things that we missed, and see how many more episodes we're gonna have to do. Because I'm saying right now, it's gonna be at least 2.
Yeah.
More. I think it's gonna be at least 2 more. So, folks, and if you have subjects that you'd like the ladies to reflect on from 2020, email me. I'll put my email address before we leave. But as always, I'd like to thank both ladies for taking time out of their positive, productive schedule to share with us. They are always on it. Always, always, always. So, as always, we're going to say before we let them go, could they share their contact information? So, first up, Jill Jones.
I am at Jill D. Jones at Twitter, and Jill Jones Music on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. Next up, we have Aisha K. Staggers.
You can reach me at Twitter at Aisha, capital Aisha, Staggers, capital Staggers.
Excellent. And myself, the best place to probably reach me is my website, drvibeshow.com. You can also reach me on Twitter at drvibeshow. Also, Facebook, that's where I'm at. YouTube, where I'm at. If you have any suggestions on topics that haven't been covered, pardon me, for this event, or you just want to provide me feedback, myself and the ladies would absolutely love it. Also, too, if you copy or look at that link there and the replay, you can go to a little survey and give your thoughts, opinions, comments. I'm going to do my best because before we went live, I said, this video is so darn good that I'm going to see if I can end off with it. So I'm going to do my ending here. I'm going to bear with me. We're going to get this video to play again because Jill Jones was just rocking it with this video, folks. This is a Jill Jones production, right? Not a Paisley Park production. It's a Jill Jones production. Yes. As always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, two-time Canadian Ethnic Media Association award winner, and monthly host of the only online conversation monthly for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and also sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And one other thing I just want to drop, was it last week I had a chance to have a conversation with a gentleman named D. Chanson Berry. Folks, when I put up the replay for this, you need to watch it. It was epic. And I asked him, what words do you have for Blacks around the world for the future? And he said 3 words: love, respect, and faith. So that's what I want to leave on. And now we are going to go to the Jill Jones production. All right, folks, that was the Jill Jones production. She is available for hire. So, folks, thank you so much. Please follow us on social media platforms, and we will tell you when we're doing part 2 and probably part 3 of this epic conversation. God bless. Peace be all. Keep the faith. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody, and keep safe.